The Democratic Party is a big party, and there's lots of voices, lots of ideas, but what people are really focusing on are, do we have leaders that will help government work and get things done for us? And I keep talking about showcasing democratic values, but that's what my constituents want. They want to feel heard, they want to feel listened to and responded to, and we just need a different approach.
So you've touched on this, but what are your top priorities
Oh.
should you be elected?
Absolutely, we need to focus on creating more attainable or affordable housing, lowering the cost of living and the environment, and overlaying all that is making sure we continue to send legislators that are 100% pro-choice to the legislature.
So let's talk about affordable housing.
Yes.
Specific policies.
Well, the legislature did a study a few years ago. We are 325,000 units short across the state of affordable housing. I don't need to talk to you or anybody else in my district, but people feel that at a very tangible level. We need policies that increase the building of attainable housing at all price points in places people want and need to live. We need to ensure that we have a policy environment that is incentivizing this building or directly investing in it. This needs to happen. Constituents demand it. People in my district want to continue to live there. They want their kids to live there. And if we keep doing much of the same, it just won't happen.
You have a fair number of renters, too, in your district.
Significant number of renters, yes.
Any policies around that? They have tried rent control a number of times.
I think, and this kind of goes into the other part that I'm really focused on, lowering people's cost of living. There was a bill that worked its way through the legislature last year, and it didn't ultimately pass, but I thought it would be a really tangible step in allowing, specifically for renters, to give them a certain percentage of their income state tax-free. I think that would make an incredible difference on people just trying to make it, trying to make rent, trying to pay for health care, trying to pay for your car insurance, or just adjusting to issues that arise in life. That is something tangible that I wish would have passed.
What about affordable and accessible health care, both in terms of reproductive health and behavioral health care?
Colorado is finding itself in this very unique place where we're kind of an island for reproductive freedom, kind of in the Rocky Mountain West. And we need to continue to make sure we are that island for everyone, not only in the state of Colorado, but for the region. Because if we don't take leadership there, it's just not going to happen. That's one part of healthcare. The other part is how are we making sure that healthcare continues to be accessible and affordable to everyone? And state policies have a direct impact on that.
Climate impacts health. You've touched on that. What would you do specifically to address climate-related issues?
Sure. If you have lived in Denver the last few summers, it's only a matter of time before you can't go outside anymore because of air quality, because of wildfires somewhere in the world that are affecting us here. And that is just one small example of something we really need to focus on, and that is removing emissions from the air and investing in technologies to help us do it. We need to continue to remove emissions, protect our land, air, and water, because ultimately that climate change will be the pressing challenge of our time, and we got to meet that challenge.
Let's talk about community safety. What are your top criminal justice priorities?
I think whether you live in the western part of the district or the eastern part, people want to feel safe. They want a police force, whether that's the city of Denver or broadly, that reflects the community. I have the advantage of being in the military, and I can tell you, serving in the military 18 years ago is vastly different than it is today. There are things we can do to help our police do a better job, police for the 21st century, and do it in a way that is responsive and reflective of the community, and that's respectful of what people expect. We do not need police officers to address every mental health crisis. We can do things better and smarter and take state leadership for that.
There has been a fair amount of gun control. Would there be any additional gun control that you would support?
Absolutely. I think we need to address our issues with assault weapons. I lived in Colorado Springs growing up, and I was in high school in Colorado Springs when Columbine happened, and that was 22 years ago. And if you think about the progress we've made as a state 22 years ago to today, we've made very little. The assault weapons and gun violence and active shooter incidents are on the rise. It's not been decreasing in 22 years, and we need to, as a state, we need to think hard about what policies we're going to pursue to prevent that. And banning assault weapons is a huge part of that.
Education reforms. Specifically, what is your top priority in terms of education reforms?
I have two kids in Denver public schools, and one thing I can tell you as a parent is we need to start funding our schools. I've also had the opportunity to sit on the Community Planning Action Committee for Denver Public Schools for the 2024 bond, And the entire conversation is about how we don't have enough money to meet our basic needs. We don't have enough money to do critical maintenance. We don't have enough money for HVAC systems for some of our older buildings. And we don't have enough money to pay for teachers. I look at the biggest reform we can make in public education, and we need to fund it. And that comes from the state.
Lastly, racial equity policies, which is somewhat tied to criminal justice reform.
Sure.
A lot of times. Are there any additional policies around racial equity that you would pursue?
Well, we need to realize that as a state, we have an obligation to make sure everyone in our community feels heard and respected. And whether it's George Floyd or any other issues, like we continually have issues here. And it takes statewide leadership to recognize, one, that we have a problem, and two, provide leadership in a way that respects every person in every community. And as a statewide leader, that's what I would hope to do.
Is there anything you would like to add?
No, ballots are out on the doors, and what I really think the voters in this district have is a choice. If you want good government, if you want to elect someone who's 100% pro-choice and to focus on issues that will have a tangible effect on your life,